Madam Web's entire theatrical run was only slightly better than Snow White's abysmal opening weekend. 56 million in international box office, 100 million total at the global box office. The movie cost $80 million to make. They made up for it at Netflix. And more people watched this movie that did $100 million in the first 2 weeks, as per Nielsen. More people watched this movie on Netflix, 16 million, than did Deadpool and Wolverine on Disney+.
Renegade Online.
This is priceless. I saw this today, and I said, this is why Netflix wins. Read that for me.
From what's on Netflix, Madam Web had more views, 16 million on Netflix in its first 2 weeks streaming, than Deadpool vs. Wolverine on Disney+, 15.8 million per Nielsen numbers.
Madam Web, a movie that tanked at the box office that nobody saw. I don't even think Madam Web made $40 million. Sydney Sweeney, speaking of, went on Saturday Night Live to make a joke about nobody having seen her in Madam Web because nobody went to see the movie. But because Madam Web went to Netflix under the Sony contract, for which Netflix pays Sony a buttload of money each and every year to get their content, especially their theatrical slate, right? Madam Web, more people watched Madam Web when it came out on Netflix than watched Deadpool and Wolverine, a $1.5 billion, whatever the hell it landed at, cinematic release for Disney. More people watched Madam Web than the Disney Plus drop for Deadpool and Wolverine.
Disney Plus, where trending goes to die.
People go to Netflix to shop what to watch. They don't go to Disney Plus to see what's on. Nobody does.
They go to see if there's a new Bluey episode. How much, hey, Valiant, how
but
much
they're not shopping. That's what I'm saying. They're going there. The kids are going there. They're turning on. I'm watching Bluey.
Yeah.
They're not shopping.
How much do you think Disney wishes they'd put that on Hulu instead now?
I don't even know if that would have helped. I mean, Hulu's great, but at the same time, people still don't shop on Hulu near as much as they do Netflix.
Well, they can't put it on Netflix, though. I mean, that would be something if they said, hey, how about you guys do this? We're not very good at this anymore. You guys have our Marvel movies.
Disney should, but they're not going to, and that's the problem. But everybody in the audience really let this sink in at how bad this was, right? And again, let's go back and look and show everybody what I'm talking, how bad this is, just to remind everybody how this is. Because I don't even remember what the box office was. It was so bad.
It was real bad. That's what I can tell you. It was real bad.
Yeah, it was super bad. Madam Web did $43 million at the box office. Madam Web's entire theatrical run was only slightly better than Snow White's abysmal opening weekend. That is how bad this was. This was part of the extended Spider-Verse for Sony, right? 56 million in international box office, 100 million total at the global box office. The movie cost $80 million to make. So Sony lost their ass on this in the theater. But the kick is this. They made up for it at Netflix. And more people watched this movie that did $100 million in the first 2 weeks, as per Nielsen. More people watched this movie on Netflix, 16 million, than did Deadpool and Wolverine on Disney+. The power of Netflix. And what is it? Deadpool and Wolverine, 16 times that box office? 15 times that box office? Deadpool and Wolverine, 13 times. Sorry, I'm thinking of a different movie. 1.338. 13 times the box office for Deadpool and Wolverine, and it fell to Madam Web on streaming. And that goes to show you right there, that ought to turn heads on Wall Street when it comes to the disparity between Disney Plus and Netflix. And basically Netflix and damn near everyone else, with exceptions.
We need to get Dana Walden on the phone. Dana Walden could explain this to us. There's got to be an answer, Valiant. There's got to be some kind of answer for what's going on here.
Well, people would love to sit there, and the people that would defend Disney in this case might say, well, because so many people saw it in the theater, they just didn't care to watch it again on Disney.
Yeah, that's a good
There's
one. That's a good
that
one.
one.
I'm
which
taking notes for Disney. Go ahead.
Which, of course, is ridiculous.
Okay.
Doesn't work that way.
All right, marking that out then. Okay, what else you got? What else? I got to send this to Dana.
That's pretty much the excuse I think they would use. If people like a movie, they will see. The point is that people will show up and they'll watch stuff on Netflix just because it's there, because that's the habit, and Disney is never going to be able to break that. Amazon is the only one that might be able to get close, but Paramount, Peacock, and everybody else, even Max, I think by and large, they're never going to be able to break that stranglehold that Netflix has on the I'm looking for something to watch television shopper. And they don't have to be. They don't have to compete with that, because they probably won't ever be able to do it with Netflix. Some of these companies, like we said, they get smart and they realize if you can't beat them, join them, license the stuff to Netflix. Now, there are exceptions to the rule. And the exceptions I'm referring to are from places, that actually make shows that people really, really want to watch. Problem is that there's too many shows out there that people don't really want to watch, that get too much money spent on them. And of course, we saw a lot of that this weekend. Now, we're going to get into the Star Wars conversation, but we all know, everybody's talking about this right now. We're going to talk about this in a minute. Andor season 2, the next big thing from Disney Plus, right? Andor season 2, $650 million dropped on this show between the first and second season so far that we know of.
Well, after how we saw Deadpool and Wolverine did on streaming, I'm sure that Andor season 2 will do well.
You see where that's going? Yeah, that's the problem. And the problem is that it just gets worse, because look at the last 2 major pieces of intellectual property that have dropped on Disney Plus. It ain't like Netflix, where they have a dozen new things or 24 new things that come out every Friday, right? Disney has a handful of big items, big ticket items that come out each year. The last 2 big ticket items from their 2 pieces of core IP that have been relegated to Disney Plus largely, Marvel and Star Wars, neither one of them really charted. Daredevil showed up, eked its way into the top 10 when it had, loaded the box with a couple of episodes, and then disappeared for the rest of its existence. It never really got up there. Skeleton Crew never charted at all. And this has been the constant problem. And of course, Disney is spending way more money for each of these shows on average than what Netflix is doing. People talk about, well, Netflix's content spend for streaming is, twice that from what they can figure for what Disney is doing with Disney Plus and Hulu and ESPN all combined. The difference is the audience that Netflix is getting is 5 times what Disney is getting on average for these shows, with the exceptions of licensed content like Bluey. And of course, when they drop like a Moana kind of movie, those movies that were in the theaters, that's where Disney's getting the most of its viewership from.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.